Okay, so we're getting ready to fit the cross shaft now, which goes across the engine and allows it to have the left-hand gear change. So because we've got the triplex conversion on the primary chain, we've had to fit a new spacer here. So we've got like this top hat bit which goes like there, and the spacer slides on top of the top hat. So what I've done is I've put this shaft in the vise, held it tightly, and undone the nut on the top, which is always very tight. And I put the blowtorch on that, and then it came off okay. And then the foot, the actual gear change foot, then just slides off, and then the sleeve comes off, and then the actual this part actually comes off, the actual top hat bit. Put the new top hat bit on, and then with the mounting plate, then the spacer, then the foot, and then the nut back on. So the whole thing is exactly as it was. It's just that it's now that bit. You know, how can we see it there? There, probably about 1/8 of an inch, so I can get a better light on it, which I can't. Anyway, it's about yeah, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch further out than it was. Strange, I can't really seem to light that properly. So it doesn't look like it's much longer, but it is. It's quite a bit longer. It's a good 1/8 of an inch longer. Okay, and so then that, quite simply, that's going to slide. You simply slide it in all the way across, and then we'll engage it with the gear selector on the other side. A couple of things that I'll mention now. So what I've done is I've bought, this is a gasket from a T150, which I'm going to modify slightly, I think. And if you remember, I said that these two bolts, they go through into the clutch. They shouldn't do, but someone's put probably slightly too long bolts in at some point, and they've broken through into the clutch. And what I'm worried about is that oil will go down these threads. I know it's the thing, well, can oil go down threads? Well, yes, it can. And work its way into the clutch. We don't want it. So I'm going to put this gasket on, which you would have on a T150, which actually stops oil coming out of the case, because on a T150 there are actually two bolts that go in. Okay, and so you need that gasket to stop the oil coming up the shaft of the bolt. We don't have those bolts on the T160, but I'm just putting that gasket in to stop any oil going down into the clutch. And it's very important that we line this foot up properly. And basically, the foot is lined up so that the bottom edge of the foot lines up with the center of the bottom bolt hole. Okay, so when we put it on, the bottom edge of that foot will line up with the center of that bolt hole, and that's in the right position. And the reason we got this spacer on is, of course, because we've now got the triplex chain, and the foot sits on the outside of the here, and obviously it just needs to be spaced out enough so that it misses this sprocket, because someone found out that in fact there was room to move that foot a bit further out without it hitting the inside of the outer chain case. So that's why that space is on there, just so the foot is normally about there. It sits just a little bit further out and misses the sprocket of the shock absorber. Okay, so we're going to put it in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the linkage on at the other end, so that these splines here on this end will engage with the splines at the other end and hold this shaft in exactly the right position once I've lined up that bottom edge with the bottom of that hole. So we'll put that in, line all the splines up at that end, make sure the foot's in the right position, and then we can do everything up. Okay.